Okay, guys, real talk. How good was Leinster over the weekend? They put in champions level performance from top to bottom. Leinster were on point. They dominated the game early on, even without Gibson Park. Like I say, putting in a champions performance. The Bulls really were a no-show. They did put in little bits, there were little sparks of brilliance here and there, but nothing to warrant a win, nothing to show that they even deserved winning that game. Poor performance from the Bulls. I was hoping for a bit more, but I'll tell you who's most happy: Leo Cullen. Because honestly, I do feel if they did not get this win, we would have seen Leo Cullen getting sacked, especially after some dodgy calls and some dodgy games. But we need to take a look at this season in its entirety, not just in relation to a couple bad decisions that were made. Ultimately, he's human. Mistakes are made. There's nothing that can be done about it. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to make mistakes next season. It just comes down to how critical it is and how critical we are of him. So, honestly, they've come through with a big win. They've got the Galacticos. They do have so many elite level players. We are going to be seeing players. I think it's like Ross Byrne, Cian Healy is going to be retiring as well. It's leaving the club, but then they do have Rieko Ioane coming in now. Whether he's going to have the same effect that Jordie Barrett had once signing, I don't know. He's a completely different style of player. Um, Rieko Ioane gives a lot of flexibility as well, which is really nice. But, with Jordie Barrett leaving, he's going to be leaving on a big high. He has, a championship behind him. And, I think he plays for the Hurricanes. He's going to be going back there with another trophy or another medal to add to his cabinet. And it's just, the next step in his career, the next chapter, right? So honestly, Jordie Barrett was a revelation this season. And I do feel that if Jordie Barrett had to be played up against the Saints instead of, for whatever reason, starting on the bench, we would have seen Leinster still in the Champions Cup. We could have even potentially seen a Leinster Bordeaux final. And then I think that really would have gone a completely different way, right? So decisions. When bad decisions are made, his head was on the chopping block. I was very critical of him. A lot of people were very critical of him. Same thing with Ninab. People were very critical of him. But you look at the games after Leinster were knocked out of the Champions Cup, we saw a dedicated, focused squad. Yes, they did have a couple blips here and there, but they got into that rhythm at a perfect time, right? They were started to kill teams, and they started to kill them off relatively early as well. And putting in hard defensive masterclass games. We look at both games up against Glasgow. Um, Elite talent on show, putting in brilliant defensive work. We saw Leinster's defensive work rate up against the Bulls. Again, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Their lines were perfect. They made life for the Bulls very difficult. They suffocated their players. Ambrose Papier really had a hard time to get anything working, right? Seb de Klerk, he was relatively maintained as well. And they just managed to control those forwards, which is a very difficult task to do. They showed a lot of resilience in terms of the breakdown, in terms of finding where it hurts and then applying pressure to it, right? So they did an absolutely brilliant job. And again, they were without Jamison Gibson Park, which is a big player. But yet they still won. This goes to show the quality and depth that Leinster really do have. And there's only one team in world rugby that has the kind of depth that Leinster has, and that is Toulouse, right? So honestly, considering the games, Leinster deserved that win outright. I had it in my gut to think, you know what, they might come through, but Leinster deserved that win 100%. And I truly do think, look, I need to start betting against Leinster more often because they're going to keep winning. Um, but look, this is going to open up a whole new thing, a whole new, um, how do we say it? Uh, a much wider variety of issues that they are now going to be facing, right? Because now that they are champions, now that they are on top, the only way is down, right? They're at the summit. They are going to have a lot of hungry teams going out there wanting to take them out. Look at Glasgow. It is a marathon. The season is not a sprint. It is a marathon. It's who does best. Obviously, we saw Leinster do best throughout the general table and the in play season, right? But then back end of the season, we saw things getting hot. We saw them getting into the final stages where the games counted for a lot more, and they started to panic. They started to choke. But once they got knocked off of the Champions Cup, it kind of felt like there was this pressure that was lifted off of their necks, right? This pressure that was lifted off their shoulders, where they were now just able to put all their focus, all their attention into the URC, and they absolutely dominated. And they took a very hard route in terms of getting to where they are, and ultimately winning the URC. But like I say, it's now going to come down to how long can they stay on top? Because everybody's going to be bringing in reinforcements, right? Everybody is going to be putting in all that work in the training ground. Leinster is now going to have a target on their back. Who's going to be able to take it? I do want to do a video in terms of breaking down my predictions for next year and who I feel is going to be in the top 4 as well. But honestly, the squads are set. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of impact Rieko Ioane has for Leinster. And I want to see if anything else comes out of it, because they haven't really brought in anybody else, right? Leinster do have quite a few players leaving, and some of them left mid-season, but there's only 2 players that are coming in. One player, which I forget his name now, he's coming back from a loan from Bristol. Um, something Byrne. I forget his last name, but his surname is Byrne. And then you have Rieko Ioane, right? So they are losing a lot of talent. Like I think Ross Byrne is going to Gloucester. Cian Healy is retiring, and then there's a couple of players here and there that's changing up. But they haven't really brought in anyone else, right? They've signed a whole bunch of players down to new long-term contracts, which is lovely to see, especially with the likes of Prendergast putting his pen to paper. But are we going to see any more reinforcements to this? Because I think next season they are going to require a lot more, and that effort is going to need to be more consistent throughout the season. Yes, injuries do play a very, very big part. As we saw with Glasgow, they got hit hard in terms of injuries. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can really do about it outside of dealing with it as best as possible. We saw Gibson Park pull up the morning of the finals, and he ended up being called out. Ty Furlong, he just came back from injury, and then he's out injured again. That's another big, big loss. Caelan Doris, again, people forget the quality that Leinster did not actually have at their disposal. They didn't have their captain, right? But yet they still managed to win the URC. quality in depth. Imagine if Ty Furlong had to be fit, if Caelan Doris had to be fit, if Gibson Park had to be fit, and then have this massive revolving door of like elite talent. It's ridiculous. So Leinster, albeit I started to go against them, you have to give credit where credit is due. They showed the world they can mix it with the best. They showed the world they don't need all of their talent to be able to win the URC, and rightly did so. So, current champions, unfortunately for them, the only way is down. It just comes down to how long they're going to stay at the top, right? Because there's always going to be those hungry hyenas waiting in the shadows for them to slip up, right? Just waiting. Then everybody's going to be improving. Everybody's going to be making those subtle changes, right? Will Leinster have that same drive that they had for a majority of the season? Will they be able to learn from the mistakes that were made back end of the season, right? I don't know. Obviously, losing Jordie Barrett is going to be a big, big thing, but they have the depth, they have the talent. I cannot wait to see the internationals that's going to be coming through, because obviously majority of Leinster they play for Ireland. It's just straight up, it is what it is. We have the British and Irish Lions, which is coming out. Like 12 or 13 of those players are from Ireland. They have that cohesion, they have that togetherness, that bond. So Leinster next year is going to be a very, very difficult customer, but can they keep that fire? I don't know. Do you guys think Leinster will be able to maintain that fight and that fire for next season and come through again with a back-to-back win of the URC? I don't know. But if anything I've learned from the back end of the season is to not doubt Leinster, because they will happily prove you wrong and make you eat your own words, like I have done multiple times. So let me know what your thoughts in the comment section below. If you've managed to get this far in the video, I have added a link for Amazon. I am now affiliated with them. You can get yourself a free 30-day trial. Yes, you do need to put in your card details, but if you guys aren't happy with the service, just make sure to cancel before the 30-day trial expires. And yeah, get yourself some free quality content. So also, this only applies to new customers. So I'd imagine just as long as you keep adding different email addresses and things like that, you should actually be good to go. So otherwise, let me know what your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.